have a question from
Yes.
Kwambe.
Yes. Kwambe.
Kwambe over in Powder Springs,
Yes.
and he writes in and says, my wife and I live in a house that is titled in her name, and we are interested in selling in the next 2 years. I am wanting to purchase the home when it's time to sell. Can a spouse sell a home to another spouse? If so, how does that work and what's involved?
Interesting question. So they're going to move out.
Okay.
They plan to go move and I think buy another home somewhere. And he wants to buy it because he wants to keep it as rental property.
Okay.
And he doesn't want it in her name for rental property. He wants it in his name for rental property. And his concern was, can you buy a home from someone you're related to? Because in some real estate transactions, if it were, for example, if you were doing something if your IRA, for example, owned real estate, and that's a complicated topic, we won't talk about that today, but you can't do it from your spouse. He was worried about how do I make that happen, given the fact that it's not an arm's length transaction, and you just buy it like you would buy it from anybody else. So Kwambe and his wife would enter into a purchase and sale agreement. They would agree on a price that would be either at or slightly less than market value, meaning he couldn't buy it from his wife for more than a lender would appraise it for, more than an appraiser would appraise it for.
Right.
Turn the contract into the lender orders appraisal, checks title, does everything. My guess is, since he's been living there, he wouldn't need to do any inspections or any other checking. He certainly would want to verify that there are no rental restrictions in the neighborhood, but then he would go and close on it, just like if I purchased something from you, Alfie. You and I are not related, and the transaction would work exactly the same. So, Kwambe, there are no restrictions on a spouse buying a home from another spouse. You need to disclose it. You need to disclose that the buyer and seller are related in the transaction. Just you need to let the lender know that, so they could, not that there would be any hanky-panky going on, but you want to make sure that
all
you
your
give
bases are covered.
That's exactly right. You want to make sure you give the lender the opportunity to understand what's going on. Let's take a look at rental rates in the U.S. in the last few years. In 2010, this is amazing to me. In 2010, the average dwelling in the U.S., now this data is from the U.S. Census, okay, Alfie? So it includes, little bitty towns in Iowa and Nebraska and big major metropolitan areas like San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City. Okay. And the average dwelling rented for $698 in 2010, $698 a month. Any guess what the average rental rate is today on a property, Alfie? Second quarter 2019.
And when was the original amount you said from when?
2010.
2010. So this
yes.
is about 9 years or so.
Yeah, almost 9 years.
I would say, I hate to say it would be more than double, but I'll say around $1,100.
So $1,000.
Okay.
$1,008.
All right.
And so the average unit costs $310 more today to rent. And the average asking rent has gone up in the U.S. 44.4% in the last 9 years, 44.4%. And one thing I can tell you is that if you look back just a couple of years before, like 2007, it's probably, believe it or not, Alfie, cheaper to buy a house today than it was in 2007.
Wow.
Because the average sales price has not gone up that much compared to 2006 and 2007. It's gone up a lot compared to 2011 and 2012, but the reality is that the interest rates are so much lower today than they were then. So the cost of renting continues to skyrocket while the cost of buying a home is still very reasonable.